All right, everybody, this is the Friday 12:30 p.m. briefing for Hurricane Dorian. There we go. All right, so getting into the situational overview right now. The main change from yesterday is that Dorian is starting to have a slower track, and therefore any impacts to portions of north and central Georgia could be more into the middle to the end of next week. So it is very possible that we could start seeing these impacts past Labor Day, which is something that's a little bit of a change from a couple of days ago. The system is expected to slow and stall after it makes landfall. Right now, it's predicted to make landfall along the eastern Florida peninsula Tuesday morning before slowly turning northward and moving along the southeastern Atlantic seaboard up into the rest of the southeastern states, including southern Georgia for now. We do have a kind of a lack of upper level steering flow once Dorian starts to approach landfall. And so we're starting to see a lot of storm track uncertainty beyond Monday and Tuesday, which is similar to kind of thing we've seen earlier in the week. So there's still a lot of uncertainty to this forecast. So take everything we say here with a slight grain of salt and keep in mind that things can and probably will change here within the coming days. So the exact impacts in north and central Georgia are still unclear. But as we slowly advance in time, we're starting to see what our solution is going to end up being. All right, so this is an image right now of the current satellite view of Hurricane Dorian, which is now a high-end Category 2 hurricane. With the latest NHC update at 11 a.m., they were recording wind speeds up to 110 miles per hour. And we can see that there just to the northeast of the Bahama Islands, and the track is slowly going to bring it in towards the southern Florida peninsula. Dorian strengthened to a Category 2 yesterday evening and is soon expected to strengthen into a major hurricane. We'll likely see that here within the next few NHC updates. As it approaches landfall, we are expecting it to strengthen up to a Category 4 hurricane with possible 140 mile per hour sustained winds as it continues to make its way towards the southern Florida peninsula. Models are showing some increased confidence that the storm will make landfall somewhere around the south central coast of Florida. However, there's, like I said, there's still a lot of uncertainty with that. So for now, that's what we are expecting, but it is subject to possibly change in the future. Uncertainty does continue to exist after we make landfall, but the storm is still expected to turn north to northeast towards southern Georgia. And here's kind of a representation of some of the model uncertainty that we are seeing. So as that upper level steering flow is expected to weaken as Dorian approaches that Florida coast, we're seeing kind of a wide variance of possible solutions of Dorian. So it's important not to get locked into any one model forecast at this point in time, because there are some changes that we could possibly see. So this is leading obviously to high levels of uncertainty to the exact track of the storm, but we are expecting at least a slow turn and stall before we turn north Monday into Tuesday, again, right there around the time we're expecting it to make landfall. So looking at the model uncertainty here, right now we're expecting mostly the track to parallel just inland of the southeastern Atlantic coastline, but obviously that can change quite a bit. We've seen this change as we've started these briefings, but at least that is the current thinking. But keep in mind, if the storm does turn to the right earlier than expected, we could see lesser impacts. If it does turn northward after what we're currently expecting, we could see increased impacts from what we're even expecting within the terms of this briefing right now. But as the threat levels stand right now, we're starting to see slightly increased confidence that we could see some wind and some rainfall / isolated flooding threats to the forecast area. However, given the current track, this is still going to probably be mainly isolated into south central Georgia and possibly even into east central Georgia. So basically the southeastern portions of our forecast area. However, again, if that track does happen to shift to the left a little bit as it turns to the north, if it turns to the left a little or turns to the right a little bit more slowly, we could see these threats expanding more into the forecast area. But as it stands right now, we're getting increased confidence, but we're still expecting those threats to remain mostly isolated as you move further southeast within the state. So speaking of, so this is looking at our current tropical storm wind speed probabilities going out through Tuesday only. So we just want to hammer the point home here that we are expecting more impacts mid to late next week. So this only goes out until Tuesday. But we are seeing some increasing confidence that, especially for southern Georgia, getting into our far southeastern counties, that we could see an increased probability for tropical storm force winds as the storm does turn to the north. But exactly where and when is still to be determined as the forecast comes into shape, but honing in on that mid to late next week. Also looking at the expected storm total rainfall, this is kind of a zoomed out picture. We can see exactly where we're expecting that track. If you see the highest rainfall totals there, the track will probably be a little bit to the inland of that increased rainfall potential. As we know, that dirty side of the track, which is just that right side of the track, is where we get our highest amounts of rainfall. And so this overall picture is kind of showing, it making coming inland along the South Florida Peninsula, making its way upwards with higher rainfall potentials there for the southeastern part of the state. This is kind of a zoomed in look at what we could be expecting for Georgia. So highest rainfall totals again for the southeastern parts of the state, but keep in mind that if the system does slow down, which we've kind of seen a trend within the last several days that the storm system has a higher probability of slowing down, that these rain chances could increase. And again, as that track comes into shape, if that track does shift a little bit further towards the west, we could see these values expanding up into central Georgia as the next forecasts come into shape. All right, so just hammering home what we started out with, main change from yesterday is that Dorian does have a slower track, and that has been a trend that we've been seeing over the last several days. It keeps slowing down, which is going to help probably extend those impacts as the storm lingers coming into the southeastern United States. Impacts of portions of north and central Georgia are becoming slightly more likely, but the timing for those impacts are kind of being stretched into the middle to the end of next week. The system's also expected to stall a little bit after landfall along the eastern Florida Peninsula Tuesday morning before slowly turning northward and moving in along our southeastern Atlantic seaboard, causing impacts to north and central Georgia. Lack of upper level steering flow continues to lead to storm track uncertainty beyond Monday and Tuesday. So the exact impacts to north and central Georgia are still a bit unclear. So please stay tuned to our web updates as well as our daily webinars just to get a sense of our impacts going throughout the rest of the week into the early next week. So, all right, again, our next briefing is going to be Saturday at 12:30 p.m. If you would like these slides, they are attached to the GoToWebinar applet, and you can also go to this website to download our briefings page if you wish.